Australia then to kick off. Scarcely any wind to worry about, the pitch dry, and the ball good for handling, and back in the fly half position where he won his first cap, Paul Dean puts it into touch. So just outside Ireland's 22, there the massive Australian presence of Steve Williams and Steve Cutler, marked by Anderson and Lenihan. And it was good work by Lenihan. Paul Dean. And a late tackle as well, I think, came in there. And Ireland already, the confident starts, now have a penalty, and it's Paul Dean called up to take it. Paul Dean then of St Mary's College, won 6 of his first 7 caps as a centre three-quarter. And first short line out. Williams and Cutler behind. There's the tallest man, but again, good work by Ireland at the line out. Moss Finn covering is Roger Gould, just outside the 22, and it's a very heartening start.
Tremendous start for Ireland. They've won the first 2 line-outs, and that's something that England didn't do in 80 minutes last week. And I think they moved Philip Matthews, the tall wing forward, to the front of the line-out, and had both Lenihan and Anderson jumping against Cutler.
Ireland again at the tailwind possession through Willie Sexton. From Bradley trying to find Dean. No knock on. Bob Francis, the referee, on the spot. There's Bob Francis there, who's, I know, suffering from a slight calf injury. The referee who, of course, was in charge of the international last weekend as well. Just outside Australia's 22. Throw in by Lawton. Man in from the wrong side. Ireland penalised. So Nick Farr-Jones. And Liner to take the kick for touch. Michael Liner there, who keeps Michael Hawker out of the side and had a splendid game against England, with a try to celebrate the occasion of his first cap. Rodriguez at the front. Lenihan again, good line out, catch and take. Back to Bradley, Dean into the box. Cross comes Gould, outside the 22. It's one of his favourite ploys, the Gadio in ball. McNeil bowled over. And the ball came off an Australian, so no Irishman offside, but it's back to Farr-Jones, through to Mark Ella. Floats one long, Campese given a bit of room, gets the motion, and Burke there in support. Burke 10 metres out. And the referee looks for any possible advantage to Australia there. And a penalty it is to Australia off that superb build-up.
Yes, it was really made by Roger Gould, because he went straight in on Hugo McNeil, collected the ball, and we just saw then how quick the Australian backs are. That Mark Ella flicked out a superb 15-yard pass there, missing out Andy Slack, and we see the Australians all backing up, all looping around and backing up. Lovely support play.
And so the offside decision gives Australia a chance of first points in the match through Michael Liner, kicking to the Lansdowne Road end. And that's the distance and angle. 49 points on this tour, and 11 points against England last Saturday. 21-year-old, only his second international. 5 metres in from touch. Liner then. But that's gone some way left. Liner leading point scorer, but really Australia without a consistent goal kicker, which cost them dearly in their earlier setbacks on this tour. And Ireland, at the moment anyway, on paper seem to have that same deficiency as well. But we shall see. Ross Finn and Michael Kiernan, if they get the chance to kick. Finn it is with the dropout. Tapped back by Lenihan, but it only finds Enrique Rodriguez, the Argentine. Through to Tyneman from Far Jones. Tyneman. And out by Michael Bradley. There's Steve Tyneman, this is 4th international, former captain of Australian schools on an unbeaten tour. So the Wallabies inside Ireland's 22. Tom Lawton waits for the call with the throw. Tyneman at the tail. Meant for Williams to come round on the peel. Ireland spoil well. Paul Dean did well to get that kick in, but not finding touch. Gould is back there. A solid citizen. Out to Liner, through from Ella. And now Campese with slack outside, and there's the Campese speed and elusive running. Just lost possession, picked up by Anderson. Again, this willingness of these Australian backs to go off on the counter-attack as they so dearly love to do.
I think Paul Dean would be far better advised getting the ball into touch rather than going for the extra 20 yards, because he's missed touch twice, and it's given Gould 2 opportunities to counter-attack back at the Irish side.
And what exciting counters they were as well. Ireland through the halfbacks. Missed touch again. Gould it is, hoisting one again. Up comes McNeil, and Gould with the follow-through tackle on Ireland's 22. Whistle goes on the pile-up. So 3 times in as many minutes, Australia capitalising on Ireland's missed touch. That's Ireland's 22. Michael Bradley, Cork Constitution and Munster. Far Jones waiting to snap at his heels. Back row take it round well through Ronan Carney. And Bradley has it to Dean for touch again. And safely this time. Paul Dean played in the centre against Australia the last time they were here in '81. His first home international, that was. 3-man line called for Australia. Williams, Cutler, Tyneman, they're 3 tall men. But again, good work by Ireland. Willie Anderson again, the Ulsterman, did so well there. Possession for Ireland. And a bit unlucky getting the scrummage put in after what looked like good, clean, loose possession.
Yeah, it was great play by Matthews and Anderson there, the 2 Ulstermen. And I think Ireland would far rather have had the loose ball than the set scrum.
It's a set scrum put in they have, just a couple of metres inside their own half. Carney again, channeling well for Bradley. Little chip and chase by the scrum half. Recovered it well, couldn't quite hold it. Ball went forward. Very neat judgment that was by Michael Bradley, a man who was on the bench for Ireland 2 seasons ago, but not winning his first cap until today. And certainly Ireland causing Australia to think here, but it's Ella through to Liner, kicking out of defence. That's well judged.
Again there we see the great example of having Mark Ella, who's left-footed, and Michael Liner playing inside centre, right-footed, that when the ball's coming from left to right, that Liner has 2 or 3 more yards, a couple more seconds to put his kick away, whereby Ella would have been on his wrong foot under a bit of pressure.
Lenihan there waits. Second man in the line. But again, good work by the new cap Phil Matthews, and it's Paul Dean. Rather miscued that one. Gould is there centre field, back into his own 22. And well, gets it away a bit shakily then, but safely into touch on the halfway line. But already we're seeing an Ireland presence in the line-out that certainly is infinitely superior to that of England last week, and notably Philip Matthews, the Ulsterman, has done some sterling work, and you'll see him now jumping at the front of the line out here with the 2 tall second rows behind him. So strength at the front on Fitzgerald's throw, and that was meant for Matthews, didn't hold it. Far Jones pumps one up. McNeil calls. Takes it soundly. No mark allowed, of course, outside your own 22. And Poidevin it was who fed it out to Far Jones. That's Tom Lawton, the hooker, takes them on, bounces the man off. Inside is Christy Roach in support. But Australia are penalised.
I think Ireland were relieved there, certainly Trevor England, to see Tom Lawton, the Australian hooker, running at him rather than David Campese then, that Lawton decided that the shortest way to the line was in a straight, going straight on there.
And I think the hooker trying to pass the ball after the tackle. So relieving kick by Ireland, Paul Dean into touch.
Chatting to the Irish players last night, that I was interested that Willie Anderson told me that he's going to stand behind the big Australian second row, Steve Cutler, all the time, trying to disrupt him, and certainly it's succeeding there. And
exactly what he's doing again, but it's back at the front of the line to Ella, Liner. Back goes Trevor England, the second fullback on the blindside wing, dropping back. And puts in a good touch. Trevor England, member of the Triple Crown side of 82. 8 of them still remain in this side. Famous season for Irish rugby. And we're now down in front of that Triple Crown stand, which is almost full now. Lenihan with good work. Bradley just in front of Paul Dean, picked up by Moss Finn. The back row there, that's Poidevin setting it up. Far Jones, Ella, Liner, Slack. And that was Kiernan's tackle that disrupted Australia's move. Very quickly up onto the attacking Australians. And a special little clap to his backs there from Kieran Fitzgerald in the middle of that Irish front row, the restored captain. So it's Bradley just inside Ireland's half. Carney again giving good protection to his scrum half. Dean, Finn, that's McNeil in the line, beats Ella with the dummy. Ringland trying to hold it as he came inside on the switch, and Ireland I think showing that they've got a bit of talent in their backs too. They've certainly got plenty of pace with 3 wing 3/4 in their 3/4 line and a centre at fly half. But they'll hold for a moment with a bit of a knock for Moss Finn there.
It was good defensive work by David Campese on the left wing there, because when Hugo McNeil came into the line for Ireland, there was certainly a 2-to-1 overlap. But he very wisely stayed out with Trevor England, because he had confidence that the Australian cover would get there before the Irish support play. And that's exactly what happened, because the Australians are very quick round the field, and I can't see many sides beating them to the breakdown.
Moss Finn in the wars, bit of rub-a-dub. Player who was recalled last season as centre 3/4, and there's Andy Slack, Australia's captain, also receiving attention from Graham Short. Andy Slack, one of several members of this side who are unlikely to continue their international rugby careers after this tour. Michael Hawker, Andy Slack, Roger Gould, Brendan Moon. So very much a farewell series for some of the principals. Steve Williams in the pack, another likely to retire. So it's quarter of an hour played and still no score. Australia, Ella now, Liner, Mrs. Slack, tapped on by Gould, went forward. Matt Burke will have to come back. So Matt Burke, 20-year-old, 20 last September, and very quickly into international rugby after schools representation. Special roar now as Ireland packed down just about 5 metres outside Australia's 22. Problems up front getting down. Andy McIntyre and Phil Orr on this near side. Phil Orr, 44 consecutive internationals for his country. Bradley, the new boy. Referee looking for Australian advantage. Bit of mishandling by Ireland. Mentioning Phil Orr, of course, very much the last survivor of the Dad's Army days, as they were dubbed, the Evergreen Irish pack, with the retirement of Moss Keane and the absence of Duggan and Slattery. Phil Orr. Now Roger Gould. well taken by McNeil. And unluckily it just drifted a metre or so direct over the touchline. Philip Matthews there then, the back row man, front jumper in the line. First ever cap from the Ards Club. Alongside him, Enrique Rodriguez. Throw in not straight. Oh, compression in the line, in fact. And a free kick to Australia. So it's Michael Liner in his second international. That's useful. Well, close decision that must have been. The touch judge and referee conferring and deciding that it went touch in goal. Just must have curled in the wrong side of the corner flag. So it'll be a 22 dropout. Lenihan poised. And no one seeming over anxious to restart play. Lawton finally gives it to Mosfin. Ella waits. Finn with the dropout. Australia there first. Steve Williams it was who set it up. And the referee deciding that Ireland were in front of the kicker. So Australia get the put into the scrummage. Centre field in front of the posts on the 22. Australia have one centre either side, Liner to the right. Far Jones though, and the dummy employed fell grievously wrong. And Burke could only just chase it into touch.
You tend to get the impression that the Australians are over-elaborating a little bit, just for the sake of it, whereby they might be better just sticking to authentic back movements, of which they are very good at.
So much as they did last week, really, against England. Good work by Willie Sexton, but it eventually rebounds to Australian hands. That's Ella, meant to carry it further forward than that. Lenihan supported by Jimmy McCoy. And an Australian knock-on. Ireland's put into the scrum. So midway through this first half, Ireland certainly settling down well as a new side after a very useful couple of training sessions the last 2 days. And the well-practiced Australian machine certainly not gaining any real ascendancy as yet. Got a free kick from the set piece. Liner tries the drop goal. It looks useful. Straight through. And Australia wasting no time after the crooked feet of the scrum, getting the free kick and just flipped away by Far Jones to Liner for the first points, and that takes him over 50 points for this tour. And the drop goal, 21 minutes played, Australia 3, Ireland 0.
I think the game probably needed that a little bit, because it had gone a bit flat, and here we see it coming up now in the action replay that very quickly Nick Far Jones gets the ball straight to Mike Liner between the posts. Just shows how quick these Australians are, that they don't hang around sort of discussing what they're going to do, they just get on with it.
So a setback for Ireland as Mosfin restarts play. And in the old practice fashion, kicking the ball dead to bring the dropout, 22. Liner, student at Queensland University, one of the new breed of young talented backs. Carney trying to set it up for the Irish pack. Jimmy McCoy. The drive close to the maul, and an offside decision against Australia, and a chance then quickly for Ireland to draw level, and a chance then for Mosfin to get first points. And this must be quite a nervous moment for him, kicking in international rugby for the first time. in the absence, of course, and Ollie Campbell, Tony Ward, or a succession of recognised kickers in Ireland colours in recent seasons. So a lot of criticism of the selectors for excluding a specialist. So can Moss Finn now answer the critics? And scarcely a sound. I'm sure the whole crowd aware of this possible deficiency. I'm just wondering what will happen. Moss Finn, who's kicked at club level for Cork Constitution on and off, but not on a regular basis. Practicing hard yesterday. Chance then to put the scores level. Moss Finn. Never really caught it properly, I'm afraid. And it screwed its way past the right-hand post. So 3-0 it stays to Australia. No early resolution of that question. That was neat, quick thinking by Liner again, and this is an aspect that, Bill, you've been drawing attention to all through this tour.
Yes, they don't sort of do the obvious, the Australians. But it's interesting now at this line-out that Ireland have cut it for the first time, and see how they get on in the short line-out as opposed to the full.
So Matthews at the front, and at the back there was Willie Anderson. Throw in not straight. Scrummage in 15. Kieran Fitzgerald, hands on head. McIntyre, Lawton, Rodriguez. Australia's put in Farr Jones. Spot of bother there, hesitated about going to the open side, seeing the Ireland flankers fringing. And how about that? A dive pass from Rodriguez, the prop. Liner tripping over as he caught Mullen on the chase through, and it was Roger Gould now setting it up. And Australia have won the loose ball too. Ella. Oh, beautifully done. Back to the pack for support, Simon Poidevin. But his pass cut out by Matthews. And I think a forward pass as well. And in the meantime, looks as though Donald Lenihan may be the injured player there.
Yes, I think Ireland were very lucky then that Philip Matthews got back in that defensive position, because I don't know whether Simon Poidevin's colourblind or anything like that, but certainly he had four men outside to be delayed it, and somehow Matthews got back in between him and the guys supporting him. But I think Ireland have they've gone now, what, 20 minutes, and really the forwards have taken the game to the Australians. They've done a lot of homework in the line-outs that both Willie Anderson and Donald Lenihan, who's receiving treatment at the moment, have done extremely well. They've varied it, and the scrummage looks pretty secure. So the Australians, they're in a far harder game than they had last Saturday.
And added to that, I think we must bear in mind that Ireland lost every international of the championship last season, so this really is looking like quite an impressive new beginning. But they trail by those 3 points. 26 minutes played of this first half, and the scrummage just inside their 22. Oh, and that was squirting out in Farr Jones' favour, finds Michael Liner about 15 metres out, but good robbing work there by Willie Sexton it was. And a bit of discontent in the crowd with Australia given the put into the scrummage after Ireland had, it looked quite clearly, won back possession there. So it's in front of the posts, 15 metres out. Farr Jones, Ella, lovely reverse pass to Liner. Now it's Roger Gould trying to power his way through, loses possession in the tackle. First one knock on, then the other. And a bit of a collision there with Roger Gould going through, and Philip Matthews. Just a possible shade of a contretemps there, but I think not. And Australia threatening once more. But Ireland now have to put into the scrum. 12 metres out. Scrummage collapses. Referee Bob Francis of New Zealand, very much new to major international rugby. And Australia, with their scrummage still crabbing around and unsteady for the put-in, penalised.
Yes, Australia, we're just waiting now while Hugo McNeill receives some treatment from the Irish trainer, but referee Francis penalised Australia on about half a dozen occasions at Twickenham last week for pushing before the ball came in, and I think that's what he was doing there, that he penalised, I think it was McIntyre, for pushing before through the point of the scrummage, really. And I'm surprised that the Australians have continued to do this, that with the same referee. Do you think they could well have learnt the lessons from last week?
Absolutely. And there's Hugo McNeill, restored to the full-back position for Ireland in the place of John Murphy, after a troubled season last year with niggling injury, which saw a loss of form from him, but in much better fettle this time, and happily quickly restored to the action now. So it's Paul Dean winning his 8th cap today, just his 2nd cap as fly half, with the kick to touch. Well, safely enough, and that was the important factor, learning from those early missed touches. So a good crowd here, and I think rather more than many had expected, and no doubt reacting to the success of this Australian side last week. That was Steve Cutler, 6'7", who won that one. To Far Jones, the new scrum half this series. Gets support from Mark Ella. Ella trying to weave his way through. The pack in support. The drive through by Steve Williams, just a couple of metres short, trying to power Ireland over their line. The drive back by Ireland, the repossessing, and Paul Dean it was, touching down to concede the 5-metre scrum. And again, Ireland looking a little unsettled, a little uncertain in defence, managing to steal possession at a crucial moment. Chance now, though, for Australia on their put-in. 5 metres out the scrum. The back row break off. Tyneman in possession. Still those few metres short. Australian back row, the same to a man that was the test back row against France on their tour last year. They have the put in again. Far Jones adding weight to the scrummage, going for the drive, but Ireland certainly holding them. Far Jones forced to pass out. Ella Liner, Ella on the loop. The long feed for Matt Burke. Challenged by Michael Kiernan. Brendan Mullen it was with the fly hack. And that's good Irish defence. So much in character, a bit of fire and fury. And Bradley hoists one for the pack to chase. Gould comes up. Great charge through by the youngster Brendan Mullen, the new cap in the centre again. And a penalty to Ireland as Australia come in on the wrong side. Stirring stuff.
Tremendous defence there, that the Australians tried one of their missed moves again, ignoring Michael Liner, and it was a speculative pass thrown out to Matt Burke. And there were 3 Irish defenders there, and it's typical Irish play. They want to get the ball on the deck, put a boot to it, nothing sophisticated about it. And you certainly know that no matter what kind of team you come over with here, that you're always in a hard game against the Irish.
An effective play it was, but less so the missed touch, allowing again Australia that counter-attack chance, but Liner unable to hold Campese's pass. Ella covering. And surely Ireland have learned that lesson of missing touches, because Australia, of all teams in the world, are at their most dangerous on the counter-attack. So we've half an hour gone and still just the one score. A penalty, rather a drop goal by Michael Liner early in the first half sees Australia ahead. And the line-out will wait. I think Ross Finn it is, who's still got trouble from that knock he took very early in the match. Kieran Fitzgerald comes across with the referee to summon further attention. Ross Finn, I think, saying, I'm all right, let me get on with it. But Kieran Fitzgerald, I think, suggesting, well, wait and let's see first.
Yes, if Finn has to come off, I'm certain you'll hear the biggest cheer of the afternoon. I know it'd be unfortunate for him, but there's one Tony Ward sort of sitting on the substitutes bench, who's a superb goal kicker, He's a regular standoff in the Irish team up until Ollie Campbell coming along. And Paul Dean, who plays fly half today for Ireland, is Tony Ward's club mate in the centre for St Mary's College.
Well, it does give me a chance to say that our Irish colleagues here do send their apologies and tell us that in the international match in Bucharest it was France that won 18-3. So clearly things are a lot better in France's favour than we were previously told. It was France winning 18-3 against Romania, not the other way round. But back to Ireland-Australia. Mark Ella covering his England. In support is Hugo McNeill.
I'm glad I didn't have that Romania-France game down in my coupon, Nigel. I could have been getting excited there with the result.
And another hold-up for injury. The first half, which has really been very much stop-start, little phases of excitement, but the crowd's still very quiet.
Yeah, the crowd's very quiet indeed, Nigel. That the game's been played with both full-backs sort of hammering the ball back down to each other. We've seen Ireland missing touches, and it's unfortunate here that it looks as though the Australian wing forward, Chris Roach, who came into the team today, having missed out on the England game, is coming off the field with, it looks like, a sort of thigh injury, I think.
It does, yes. Chris Roach only just restored to the Australian side, pack leader against New Zealand in the recent Test series, and displaced by David Cody, is the unlucky player who's now leaving the field, and no doubt will be replaced pretty soon by David Cody, the man he had displaced in selection for this match. So a specialist still, nevertheless, to come on. And Andy Slack in some bother, with Anderson challenging in the tackle. Farr Jones feeds through to Tyneman. And now Farr Jones again. McNeill comes up. A brave catch as the tackle came in. And that's what the crowd think of the decision that gives Australia the put into the scrummage. And again, I think it's Andy Slack in the wars, the player who put in that tackle, who has taken the knock. And down below me at the moment I can see David Cody warming up, the man who played the international against England. There is David Cody with Chris Roach off the field, and now the Wallabies skipper Andy Slack in the wars.
I think the Australians brought Roach in for Cody because against England, that the two England wing forwards did very well sort of scavenging a lot of ball on the ground, and this is something that Roach is very good at, that any loose bobbling ball he snuffled it up. But with Cody coming onto the field, it will certainly give Australia further advantage with having another tall man in the lineouts.
Yes, 6 feet 3.5 is David Cody against the 5 feet 10 of Chris Roach. But still no replacement on the field. Happily Andy Slack is back in the fray. Australia with the put in just outside Ireland's 22. Ella, liner, missing out Slack, looking just a little lame then. Campese back inside to Gould, and no real momentum as Campese boots one through. Rather speculative kick as Ringland covers from the right and returns it with a bit of interest. And this fluency seems to have gone from the Australian backs for the moment.
Yes, it has, Nigel. I think Andy Slack, who's a linchpin in the back, has taken a couple of knocks. He's feeling a bit groggy, and he's not relishing all these green shirts flying up at 90 miles an hour, knocking them down.
Which is exactly what they're doing. So, three-man line for Australia, 8 metres outside Ireland's 22. The ball won by Anderson, having quite a debut. And put away by Paul Dean to the line out again. And an area, of course, where, unlike England, Ireland seem to be doing every bit as well as their opponents. Still a man short, Australia, with no decision yet on Chris Roach. Jimmy McCoy at the front of the line alongside Enrique Rodriguez. Rodriguez, 15 times capped for Argentina. This is 5th for Australia. Good work by Steve Williams. Ella, liner, again not using Slack, and Campese it is in the line. Look at that change of direction, the switch. Poidovan with Matt Burke outside. Surely a try here. Does he dummy it or not? He gives it to Burke, but the referee, I think, has given a forward pass. No try given. the line open. It was the clearest 2-1 you'll ever see, and it didn't work out for Australia. And so obvious, I think, that Poideman didn't know whether to dummy or give the feed. And in the end, it didn't work as the pass went forward. McNeil's clearance not in touch, and Burke takes it out.
Yes, I think it was Hugo McNeil who was the defender there, and he took Simon Poideman's dummy. That all Poideman had to do was just straighten up, and he would have been on. And Chris Roach actually hasn't gone off injured. He's come back on the field now, so it's good to see him back there. But that was a certain try that Australia missed there.
Well, talk about an opportunity wasted. Australia, and I noticed one or two of the backs sort of pummeling the ground with their fists in anger at the missed opportunity. So Ireland survive. Still, though, 3 points down through the drop goal. Lovely pick-up by Paul Dean. And a good clearance. Matthews at the front, then McCoy just swapping over there. So Matthews 2, Philor 3. And Lenihan there alongside Steve Williams, really between Williams and Cutler. And that was Anderson. Bit of obstruction in the line-out by Ireland, and a penalty chance here for Australia.
Yes, it was a blatant bit of obstruction by Willie Anderson there, that Cutler had got in front of him, and Anderson didn't give him the most subtle of shoves in the back there, and the referee had no alternative but to give the Australians a penalty.
Exactly. So now it's Michael Lynagh with the chance to make it a 6-point lead. Product, as so many of this Australian side, of Australian schools rugby, schoolboy international in 81. And now just 21 years old, Michael Lynagh from Brisbane University, as McCoy, Philor, Donal Lenihan wait. You see they stand off centre to try and put off the kicker, which is Lynagh. Maybe it did the trick because he's missed. Just leaning to one side like the Tower of Pisa, those three burly Irish forwards. Perhaps helping to confuse the kicker, Michael Lynagh. So 3-0 it stays. That's Finn's restart. Cutler not holding it. First Ireland's ball, but looks as though Australia may have won it back now. They have, through Nick Farr-Jones. Sets it up to his pack again. Farr-Jones once more in position. Lynagh acting fly half. Ella batted on by Gould. Matt Burke in from the right. Campese now. Campese, Burke looping round, but the cover's good.
10 out of 10 for cover from the Irish lads, but they're certainly realising that the Australians have got to pose enormous threats out on the wings, and yet they've got 3 or 4 men out there all the time. But it's interesting that Burke there, he's got the confidence just playing in what's really his first international, because he only came on for about 10 minutes in the last game against England. He's got the confidence to move around the field looking for ball, which is something that I think British players don't tend to do.
And so that move puts Australia, the line out 20 metres out, but it wasn't straight enough. And one notices Ella perhaps trying to make the half break a little more often today himself, maybe realising that the cover defence is stronger in this Irish side than last Saturday. It's a pretty formidable scrummage shove by Australia, but it's well put away by Michael Bradley. As we come to the end of 40 minutes of this first half, and only the one score on the board, a drop goal by Australia, by Michael Lynagh, to give them that 3-point lead. So about 10 metres outside Ireland's 22. Lawton with the throw. Down by Steve Williams. Rather loose pass by Farr-Jones, gives problems, puts the Australian backs on the retreat. Ella trying to find touch in the corner. Back there is Ringland, lets it just roll over the goal line. And living a little bit dangerously then, I think, Trevor Ringland, but nevertheless, 22 drop out it is. perfect playing conditions, just a very slight breeze swirling around and not really to anyone's favour. Drop out by Mosfin. Steve Tyneman taps down. Farr Jones did well to bring that one back in. Climbing in, but still Ireland win possession. Paul Dean. Back there is goal. My ball, he cries. And again, puts one up. Bradley bravely took it. And there's an Australian or two on the wrong side of the ball. I think Senor Rodriguez of Warringah now in New South Wales.
It's a pretty obvious offside decision for the referee to make there. But the interesting thing watching this Australian team, certainly Roger Gould, that any time he collects a high ball, he pumps it back, he puts such height on it, it enables him to get under the ball, or if he can't catch the ball himself, he's certainly threatening the receiver. And the Irish and the British players, they tend to kick the ball and scud it through, whereby the Australians hoist it high up in the air, and it enables them to get under it.
Gould, one of the most prodigious kickers of a ball in the modern game. But now an important moment again for Ireland, using their long-range kicker, nominated Michael Kiernan. And I can add that he got 14 out of 14 for a Munster 15 in a celebration match earlier this season, but not a regular goal kicker. Can he now be on target for Ireland and level the scores? Well, it's well struck. It's curling in, but not quite the length. But a fair effort. And Ireland will draw some heart from that, although on this occasion no points. But 3-0 it stays, and we've played almost 4 minutes of injury time at the end of this first half. Drop out by Liner. Gathered in by Lenihan. Donal Lenihan, one of the outstanding second-row men of present-day international rugby. Bradley in to try and dig it out, but denied possession. The final flourish of this first half then, with just the one score in Australia's favour. Only those 3 points between the sides. A Liner drop goal from a free kick. So Finn starts the second half. Nick Farr Jones with a bit of time to get that one away. Back inside his 22, McNeil recovering. Australia's throwing the line out. It will be when they get a ball. Tom Lawton goes off to hunt of one, this 16-stone hooker.
The crowd had the ball longer there than England had it all last week.
Three-man line Australia have called. And untidy for both sides. Finally, Cutler through to try and tie it up. Referee not happy with it. Gives Ireland a put into the scrum. About 8 metres outside Ireland's 22. Familiar event in international rugby these days as the scrummage once more collapses. Pack's getting down so low. Carney taking the pressure off his scrum half. And held. And Australia this time given the put in. Not the most edifying sequence of play. Nick Farr Jones, another youngster, 22 years old, university student from Sydney. He's the scrum half. Pick-up was by Tyneman. Now Farr Jones chips through. Matt Burke looked to knock on. The referee waits for any advantage. None comes Ireland's way.
Good variation by Nick Farr Jones there, because he saw that the Irish wing forwards had detached themselves and were coming up quickly, and he just chipped the ball behind the defence there.
A player who keeps the far more experienced Phil Cox on the bench. Paul Dean. It's one of the aspects of Nick Farr-Jones' game is that he came here incredibly fit, and Phil Cox had had quite a layoff from rugby, the previous international scrum half for Australia, and Farr-Jones played so well in the early matches. Really, with Phil Cox being injured too, they had no choice, and he's consolidated his position now, and a very promising player he looks. That's him in possession, through to Ella, liner, and Poidevin standing off in the line. Good tackle coming in from Moss Finn, still just outside Ireland's 22. Well, he got it away, Farr-Jones from Gould. Ella looks for the drop goal. Can he pull it round enough? Yes, indeed. Mark Ella keeps up his remarkable test scoring record with that beautifully taken left foot drop goal, pirouetting round, and if they can't score the tries, at least they can get the drop goals.
Yes, and Roger Gould there saw that his way was blocked to the blind side, flicked it inside to Mark Ella and cracked it over there. Lovely bit of play, but at the moment we're just waiting because Andy Slack, who the Australian skipper, has been in the wards a couple of times, receiving a little bit more treatment from Graham Short, the baggage man.
Yes, Andy Slack, who has not had the happiest of tours. He missed the first game because of injury before the tour had even started, and now has taken several knocks, but is continuing anyway. In the meantime, Willie Sexton, the new Irish cap, is the player to receive attention as well. And Australia then with 2 drop goals and a 6-point lead.
Yeah, I think the Australians have just about deserved the lead there, because they have threatened the Irish line more than the Irish have. That Ireland have been sort of clutching at straws somewhat, in some of their play. They've been on the defensive a lot of the time, and Australia have been sort of driving in there and sort of dictating the play.
Kieran Fitzgerald in the middle of your picture there, now with a test of captaincy on his hands to try and lift the effort. 6-point deficit as Finn restarts. Willie Anderson first there, got the ball knocked through to the hands of Christy Roach. And the original pile-up of players, the ball buried at the bottom. Fitzgerald not yet bound in. This is 17th international. His first, incidentally, against Australia back in 1979. Ella, liner. Diagonal ball, covered by McNeil well. His turn to counter-attack. McNeil up to the Australian 10-metre line. There's the ball for Bradley. Brendan Mullen, that looked a bit high by Ella. Bit of a reaction tackle, I think. And play goes on. Kiernan, Dean, Finn now. Ringland outside, can't control. Knock on and no Australian advantage. And Clive Norling, the touch judge on this near side, may well, I think, be referring back to that high tackle by Mark Ella, and I sense here that Australia will be penalised. Reaction by Ella it may have been, but nevertheless high and dangerous, and that will be a penalty, I'm sure, to Ireland in a moment.
Yes, correct decision by the referee there, that he consulted Clive Norling, that there was nothing malicious, as Nigel mentioned, about the tackle, that Mullen had just stepped inside there, and it was a reaction by Ella putting his arm up to stop him. But certainly I don't really know why the referee had to consult Norling, because he was only a yard away from the incident himself. He was in a far clearer position to see it and should have awarded the penalty there and then, rather than having to wait to consult Clive Norling on the touchline.
Yes, I agree with you. I don't think he could have failed to have seen it, and it looked to me as though he was deciding it was accidental, and no further ado. But there we are. A chance for Michael Kiernan of Ireland's first points, and his as a place kicker for his country. Off the post and over. Yes. Well, as I say, they don't come closer than that, but 3 points it is. And that has given the crowd something to cheer about. 6 points to 3, and a lift for Fitzgerald's men it'll be.
Here we see the incident here. Bradley inside the Muller, probably the first time that he's touched the ball, and yeah, it was definitely a penalty. Nothing malicious about it, just a reaction by Ella, and Ireland have deservedly kicked the penalty through Michael Kiernan. And I think now that we should see the Australians will really come out now and have a go. I think they've just been coasting up until now.
A vital 10 minutes then, I'm sure. 6-3 Australia lead. McNeil puts it away to this near touchline, about 8 metres outside their 22. And again, Australia call the shortened line out. And a rare sight, I think, in international rugby, where a player has actually cut off the length of his sleeve. Tom Lawton, the thrower in, if you can focus in on that, has actually cut his jersey to a short sleeve one. Makes no odds. Liner tries a drop goal, but some way off target. And that's perhaps indicative of maybe a loss of confidence in this exciting Australian back division, who found it hard to make the gaps and breach the Irish defence.
Yeah, that's correct now. You see, for instance, that Andy Slack, when the ball dribbled past him, I think he must be suffering with a little bit of concussion or something, because he certainly doesn't look as though he's in the game at the moment.
From the dropout then. In touch on the far side. 6 points to 3. And about 11 minutes into the second half. Bradley enveloped by a sword of orange jerseys, a bit of fisticuffs. The whistle had already gone, and I think one or two of the Australian players carried on after the whistle. Bradley was the player getting half our Australian pack together with the ball, and he's now the injured man.
Yes, he certainly caught a knock there, and I think it's a reaction by the Irish players to that they retaliated into their Australian opponents. But Ireland now, they're getting in amongst the Australians. They're not giving them any platform to play off. They're not allowing them to settle. They've really got them rattled, and it's going to need a big effort now by this Australian team to get back into the game, because the Irish lads, that they couldn't care less about reputations. They're not interested that Australia had beaten England well last week. They just want to get stuck in and give a great 80 minutes performance for the country.
And of course, knowing that success with Ireland today would no doubt ensure them a place for the coming championship after Christmas. Carney channeling for Bradley. Back to Dean. Scuds it away, finds touch just. But Australia, who really should be very much a cohesive unit, with 11 of this side having played the Test series against New Zealand in the summer, and 13 of them in action against England last week. Their throw in about 10 metres outside Ireland's 22. Problems again as Ireland pour through the line out onto Nick Farr-Jones. Well set back for Bradley. Dean, Brendan Mullin, the mismove with McNeil in the line. That's worked sweetly out to Ringland. Covering his Ella, but Ringland shrugs him off. Mosfin tries to chip through. And that's surely Ireland's best three-quarter attack. In the meantime, Ringland and Matt Burke having their own little individual tussle. One or two others look set to join in. Jimmy McCoy there, looking pretty aggressive. And Fitzgerald trying to pull them apart. No doubt exchange of a few friendly words. It's all happily dying away pretty fast. But to come back, Bill, that was promising back play from Ireland.
It was promising. They got a super loose ball there because it was slapped back by the Australians. And here we see it. It's the classic miss one there. Mullen, he missed it out Mosfin. Hugo McNeil into the line well. Times his pass beautifully to Trevor Ringland. And he's leaving sort of Mark Ella for dead there. And sort of, I think Mosfin might have been better advised there to keep the ball in motion rather than trying a little chip ahead past Roger Gould. But super play by Ireland there.
And now after the referee has spoken to both Andy Slack and Kieran Fitzgerald. A penalty has been given to Ireland, and I think Andy Slack is suggesting that the place of original infringement was a bit further upfield and away from Australia's goal posts than it finally is, which is about 7-8 metres outside Australia's 22, and gives Michael Kiernan a chance to put the scores level.
Yes, it was Clive Norling's intervention again that has given Ireland this penalty. That what it won, I think, that Trevor Ringland was then obstructed by Matt Burke, and they had a little bit of a ding-dong with the rest of the forwards joining in afterwards. But it was for Burke's obstruction on Ringland that Ireland had been given this penalty.
So Kiernan successful with the last one off the post. Can he put it level? Excellent kick. And 6 points all it is. And surely that will make the crowd give a bit more support to the Irish side. They've been so quiet up till now. But 6 points all, and Kiernan, with his second successful penalty, has put them level. 12 minutes played. Start by liner, falls to McNeil.
Australia could well now be regretting the mistake by Simon Poidevin when he had that super chance to score a try early in the first half.
Yes, that would have taken them at least a full score clear and given Ireland real problems. Now they're on terms. And there's Willie Anderson, really enjoying his debut after so many years of good work for Ulster in the Interprovincial Championship and for his club, Dungannon, leading the drive, winning the scrummage. Sort of second-row play you'd appreciate there, Bill.
Great play, picked up the loose tap back by Steve Williams, his opponent, and he got onto that ball, and that's the kind of play that the crowd really appreciate. They've got them standing on the seats now, and appreciate that forward driving play.
Now it's Carney taking them on. To Bradley. Quite where he intended it. Gould has time. And there's that Gallio in again. And really, he does put it up high. McNeil underneath. Bowled over by Roger Gould on Ireland's 22. Well, Farr Jones wasn't expecting that one. Really shot out. And rebounded off him. And the last two up, no doubt, the two fullbacks. Well, McNeil's already, in fact, up, and so is Gould. But it's Kieran Fitzgerald, Ireland skipper. Hard man, born and bred in the Connaught province, for whom his performances this season have earned his recall.
Yes, we saw a superb example again of Roger Gould's fielding of the ball and pumping it high back that enabled him to give Hugo McNeil one heck of a tackle there. Now, just looking at this next scrummage, that I noticed that Paul Dean is still in the authentic fly-half position. I feel that Ireland would be better advised, but in actual fact they are moving Moss Finn to put the relieving kick away, because he has got a stronger kick than Paul Dean, and this is a wise move by the Irish.
Yes, Finn poised then, deep behind the scrummage. But Australia wheeling well and disrupting Ireland on the set piece. Carney grimly hanging on, Phil Orrid support there, trying to pull an Australian or two out. It's back for Bradley. Oh, he did well, but, well, I thought he'd penetrated the gap, but actually beat one man and then ran into Ella. Still on the 22. And it's getting pretty dogged and dour up front at the moment. Campese there, number 11. I'm sure we'd like to see a little more ball. A player who, in fact, prefers the full-back position, but has Roger Gould to contend with at least till the end of this series. Number 11 just in the foreground. still on Ireland's 22. Michael Bradley of Cook, Constitution and Munster with the feed. Carney, the Ulsterman, the Leinsterman rather, and away by Paul Dean. A 24-year-old whose last cap prior to this one was against France in 1982. McCoy and Rodriguez at the front. Tyneman taps back. Round comes Williams on the field. Farr Jones, Ella, slack. Checked and burst through. Finds Cutler in support. Farr Jones to Ella again. Poidevin in support. Now Campese. Horde of Irishmen there. Phil Orr setting the example with the corner flagging work by the prop to end Campese's run about 2-3 metres from the line.
The break was made by Andy Slack, the Australian skipper, that the Irish defence were expecting the usual loop move with Michael Lynagh and also Mark Ella moving round, but Slack dummied them and just straightened up. But it was great play again, as you say, by Phil Orr and the rest of the Irish forwards, that they got there in numbers and stopped Simon Poidevin well short of the line in the end.
Further injury troubles, and this time Roger Gould, the fullback, and have been a lot of knocks for both teams, but of course the trained athlete could be pretty susceptible to bangs. Finely honed, tuned athletes, these Australians who've worked out every day.
Thought you'd describe him myself then, Nigel.
Was a time. Just about 4 metres out from Ireland's line. Ella, the run round that time. Charging through is Matt Burke. Still the tackling sound, and it was Sexton who held the man that time. And this is a pretty thin, solid green line as Australia try to power their way through. Held up. Bradley to Dean, standing behind his own goal line. Just made touch. Gould tried to keep it in play. .24-year-old Paul Dean. Australia, they still mount the pressure, still deep inside Ireland's half. Tom Lawton, 16 stone, Queenslander. Anderson again, now McCoy, and that's Sexton. Sexton of Gary Owen on his debut. McCoy has it. Dummies feeds back to Bradley, to Dean. Brendan Mullen. McNeil up in the line again, looking sharper this season. And that's Kiernan with good pace and good support from Mosfin. With chase through. Racing ahead goes Mullen. Across comes Campese. Campese just won the battle to the line. Great Irish effort. Great speed in the backs.
Yes, and the referee's actually awarded a penalty against the Australians. That there was certainly a late tackle there. I think it was the Irish, I think it was Mosfin, kicked the ball forward and he was obstructed there by his opponent. The referee, quite rightly, played advantage and has given the penalty where the kick ended.
Yes, it was the obstruction of Mosfin that's brought the penalty, and thrilling this was by Ireland. Super
play that you would have thought that if you'd swapped the colours of the jerseys, you would have thought it was the Australians attacking here. Super piece of play. The Mosfin there, outstripping the opposition, and I think it was Tyneman there who certainly took him out as Finn kicked the ball past him, and the referee, quite rightly, decided to play advantage. That Mullen was unfortunate, he could well have scored down his debut, and the referee has awarded Ireland the penalty, which they deserve.
Absolutely, and so it's Kiernan again then with a chance now to give Ireland the lead for the first time in the match. 6-all. Becomes 9-6, a hat-trick for Michael Kiernan. His first game, there's an extra spring in the heels there, isn't there? His first time as place kicker in international rugby, and now, with 20 minutes gone, puts Ireland ahead, 9 points to 6.
Yes, Ireland have deserved it for their second half performance, and I'm certain that Kieran Fitzgerald will be urging his lads on now just to give one big final effort to hang on for this last 20 minutes.
So exciting last quarter this promises to be. McNeil puts it away, and the gauntlet well and truly thrown down to the Australians now, who've won on each of the last two visits here in 1981 and 1976. Their one test victory indeed of their last series in the British Isles and Ireland. Roach acting scrum half, through to Ella, dummy and onto Gould to Matt Burke, tries to cut inside, but again staunch defence by Ireland. Fed away by Bradley to Paul Dean to clear the troubles, over the head of Campese, and the game really has come alive. Campese now just outside the 22, and that may be too strong. It is.
Yes, it wasn't the greatest piece of play by David Campese there, that he was a yard outside the 22. He had plenty of time to go back into the 22, but I think he was looking for the speculative kick, the diagonal one there, and really that wasn't international class play.
And sets Australia back onto their own 22, and Ireland with the throw-in through Kieran Fitzgerald. Well, what a return to international rugby this could be for Fitzgerald. After the succession of defeats in the home championship and the Wooden Spoon last year. And now the scrummage on Australia's 22. 9-6, Ireland lead Australia. Breaking away is Phil Matthews, covering his liner, and gets it away despite the attentions of Willie Sexton. And I must say, for a totally new combination in the back row with two new caps and one playing only a second international, they really are coming up trumps.
Oh, they're playing tremendously well. You wouldn't, as you say, you wouldn't think it's the first time they've played together. And there we saw a great play by Matthews, that the ball was on the ground and he gave it the old sort of foot rush. You don't see it too often nowadays, and obviously these Australians aren't relishing it too much either.
Three-man line for Ireland, untidily recovered though by Willie Anderson, the man from Dungannon. Extra wedge of weight by Australia as the back row came in. Stalemate, and Australia just edging forward, get the advantage of the put-in as a result. Well, it's a long time since Ireland have had a field, or have fielded a side with just 87 caps between them, plus the 44, I should add, of Phil Orr. But it's not so long ago in the days when they're up to around about 300 between them. So experimental side that's settled in well and now leads Australia 9-6.
The Australians are looking a little bit desperate at the moment. They don't quite know how to break out of the stranglehold, because the Irish team, all right, they might be lacking slightly in skill to some of their Australian opponents, but they're really getting stuck in. I'm sure one or two of these Australians must think that there's 30-odd green shirts on the field rather than just the 15.
And the crowd now getting behind the Irish, as they love to do. Pride at stake. Dean picked up by Ringland, and there's a bit of strength and determination, but Ella it is trying to set up the counter, and the fluency, the support not quite as ready as it has been in previous matches. Andy Slack lies injured again. Campese tackled, McCoy picks up, feeds to Ringland, keeps it alive. McCoy again with a foot in touch. And Slack is looking just a bit of a sorry figure at the moment, taking so many knocks. But the crowd here sense a famous victory is on the cards. In the meantime, though, an Irishman hurt. But of course, tails up now, Ireland. Coming up to the last quarter of an hour and leading 9 points to 6.
It is now the Australians that you see straggling across the field, as opposed to the Irish lads as it had been in the first 20 minutes. That it's amazing what a couple of points will do to you in front. that, you know, it really gives you the lift. And here's the example again. The Australians are arriving in ones and twos, and the Irish are really getting in amongst them there. Kieran Fitzgerald straight in on the tackle. David Campese doing the shuffle there, and just caught on the heel there by Bradley. And there's Jim McCoy, the prop. Who would have thought a prop would have got there? And he sets off the counter-attack. You know, super play by the Irish, full of enthusiasm, really giving it a go.
Well, back to the good old days, I suppose one would be saying, after the lacklustre season that's preceded this. Donal Lenihan back to the line-out. And there's Matthews poised near the front. But Ireland, in fact, penalised for the line-out obstruction. So less than a quarter hour to go as Ireland tried to set up the counter through Michael Kiernan, the man who's scored all Ireland's points with those 3 penalties and answered the prayers of many, as Ireland took the field without a recognised place kicker. Steve Williams there. Perhaps his last series of international rugby. Front jumper gets it down well. Far Jones, a bit slow for Ella. Slack just ships it on. Gould. Matt Burke again tries to come inside his man, Kiernan. Not fancy his chance of beating him on the outside. Far Jones again. Burke. Australia giving tremendous commitment now. Slack again. Gould. Bit wild and loose, and that's the sort of thing Ireland like. Finn, though, misses his man. Campese it is, onto Tyneman. Trying to keep the momentum going is Williams to mark Ella. Ella with Campese chasing against Bradley. Campese is there first. Did he get the touchdown? Not given. Kiernan did well. Campese just failed to control it. He had the ball at his feet over the line, but it seemed to screw away from him at the vital moment, and he was unable to ground it.
As here we come now. Really, the Australian passing there is a little bit raggy, but they get away with it because they throw the ball out so wide. But David Campese, you know, inside the man, good dummy there, and good support here by Tyneman, the number 8, that he drives into the man well. But just look at this little kick coming up from Mark Ella. That he realised that there's nothing on from the outside, and David Campese, realising where Ella's going to put it, you know, he looks as though he could well be sort of half a yard offside there. And unfortunately, the ball just eludes him, as we see here. You know, goes off at 45 degrees and just enables Finn to get back, Michael Kiernan to get back to touch the ball down.
I mean, imagine the frustration of that moment there for Campese, as he thought, well, this is it, this is the try, and the ball just slewed away off the back of his foot, out of reach. Michael Kiernan, the injured player. It's significant too that in that move it was Campese that was tackled, and then, quick thinking as he is, back up on his feet and almost there to round it off with a try. But this man helped deny it. So I make it about 11 minutes plus injury time to go. Well, good effort by McCoy, Fitzgerald and Orr here in this front row. Australia attacking again. Ella looks for the drop goal. He's done it again. 3 scores by Australia, and each of them a drop goal. And what a weapon to have in your armoury. Shades of Hawthorne outside Hipwell back in the 60s. And there off the left foot, Mark Ella has put the scores level, just over 10 minutes to go. That's a bit of a stunning blow for Ireland. Three penalties to Ireland, 3 drop goals to Australia. 9 points all. Last 10 minutes plus injury time of this match. Short of Australia's 10-metre line. Bradley, who's 22 later this month, gets the feed into the scrum. Australia wheel them right round. Bradley's back in position, beautifully taken by Dean. Testing Gould. Safely enough, gets the mark called as Mullen came in.
Interesting there, Roger Gould's asked the referee if he could have let advantage go and let play carry on to where he put his 50-yard relieving kick into touch. And super play by Roger Gould this afternoon defensively. He hasn't put a foot wrong. It's like a Rock of Gibraltar there behind you. Very dependable.
Yes, experienced man to have as your last line of defence. Roger Gould, this is 18th international, first capped in 1980. He played on 3 tests of the 1982 tour, and in this game against Ireland that year he scored a drop goal in Australia's victory. Now it's 3 drop goals for Australia that hold Ireland level at 9-all. Fitzgerald with the throw. As the light begins to fade a bit, beautifully taken by Farr Jones. Ella in turn. Liner pierces through. In comes Matt Burke, and here's the try if Campese gets a decent pass. Campese cuts inside one. Ella loops round, and that's glorious support. And the try for Ella to match that he scored against England and take Australia ahead again. Mark Ella with that classical improvisation by Australia.
Yeah, super quick ball from Farr Jones. Cutler won it, and I think the Irish were expecting Australia to do their normal miss move and put the ball out wide, but no, they came short on it. And Campese here, you know, about to receive the ball, it looks as though he's going to beat Trevor England on the outside, but superbly comes inside, commits both men, and there's Mark Ella looping round him again in support like a good player should be.
And the hands go aloft for Australia in relief and delight as they score at a crucial time to recapture the lead. 13 points to 9 with just about 8 minutes to go. And Mark Ella, the man who scored 34 points in the series against New Zealand, has now scored an absolutely vital try for Australia here at Lansdowne Road to follow up the one he scored last Saturday against England. 13-9, and the conversion attempt still to come from Michael Liner. Hooked it left, so stays at just a 4-point margin. First try of the match, and classical example again of improvisation and support play with the piercing break by Liner. And there, the long pass, it looked as though that might have spoilt the chances, but just see how wide and how quickly Ella had got round to support the player and produce a splendid try. That's nothing like the 10 metres. The referee waits to see if Australia get quick advantage. They don't. They scrummage back on the halfway. Still time, of course, for Ireland to come back. Something like 7 minutes, so add on a bit of injury time to that. Farr Jones off to the blind side from Liner. Ringland's back there, challenges Campese, and bundled out. Combined efforts of Campese and Slack.
There again we see the advantage of having something like Michael Liner, who's played most of his rugby as a standoff, you know, playing the centre in his second test today, has been able to just screw that ball off his right foot back, you know, and put Ireland back under pressure.
Paul Dean inside his 22, plays it down the line, but not getting the luck of the draw as the ball curled back infield to Campese. Not quite sure what he was after then. Gives McNeil the counter-attack chance. Has second thoughts. A totally different game than last Saturday for Australia, as this new, fresh and largely young Irish side have really tested them the whole way. And Australia are only 4 points ahead. The set up by Rodriguez, stolen by McCoy. Ireland offside.
It's the right decision by the referee. I think in actual fact a hand came in from one of the Irish forward and flicked it up to Jim McCoy, that the referee was right on the spot and gave the right decision.
That could be costly, because it could well be in range for Liner once more. About a metre inside Ireland's half. Man who's very rapidly taken over the role of principal place kicker for Australia, in the absence of such as Paul McLean of former years. Liner's previous place-kicking ability in Australian colours was 3 penalties against Fiji, but now on this tour, over 50 points. That's a mighty thump. Very close, but not over. So 13-9 it stays. Ireland stay in the hunt. Had that gone over, it could have been the death knell. And a 7-point lead surely would have been too much to pull back. 13-9, though, still a different proposition. About 5 minutes to go. Mosfin with the dropout. Down from Williams to Rodriguez. Poidovan. And a further penalty to Australia. And once again, fringing offside Ireland. So this again gives Australia the chance to sew it up and make it a 7-point lead, which would be a very different proposition than a 4-point one.
And also that he's taking up a lot of time now, with Michael Liner taking a fair bit of time over these kicks, that the Australians realise that they're sort of coming up towards the final whistle. It'll make it very hard for Ireland to come back, even if Liner misses this one.
Valuable time gone, whatever the outcome of this effort from Michael Liner. Yes, it's over. 16-9, and all the difference in the world. 7 points the margin. That means Ireland have to score at least twice. A try conversion, and then still yet another score required to surpass that Australian total. But they'll try. About 3 minutes and some injury time to add on. Light begins to fade a little here at Lansdowne Road. Mosfin restarts. Well, it gave Farr Jones all the time in the world to bang it away, but it's not in touch, and McNeil thinks about opening it, changes his mind, is caught by Steve Williams, and possession for Farr Jones. Steve Tyneman. Cross kicks onto the 22. Is Brendan Mullen there? Now Paul Dean. Bradley gets it away, looks for the safety of the touch. Gould is there. Campese calls for it. In the meantime, the referee has awarded a penalty back inside Ireland's 22 to Ireland.
And Andrew Slack, quite rightly, he's not wasting, he's taking up plenty of time getting that ball back to Paul Dean to take this kick to touch.
Counting down to less than 2 minutes. And injury time to add on. Rebounding into touch off Matt Burke. Ireland's throw in. Fitzgerald rushing to get possession as Dean waits at the base of this lineup. A quick long throw to Willie Sexton at the back. Matthews dives in. Williams fly hacks through it. Falls to Finn. McNeil anticipating that, and Ringland now on the outside. Rounding Campese, but Liner covering. Into injury time we move now. (16-9). Ireland holding Australia for so long, gaining the lead only to see it return again to the green and golds. Kiernan though, oh beautiful swerve inside. Lovely tackle back by Matt Burke. And Kiernan so quick then, the support just wasn't with him. But in turn, Matt Burke turned tail and collared his man well. So whatever else, a lot of good things have come out of this game for Ireland in their rebuilding process, and that will have given them great heart for the international championship in the new year.
It certainly will, Nigel. That there's no comparison between this Irish side and the one that lost so disastrously against Scotland at the end of last season. That they played with an enormous amount of spirit and a lot of skill in the backs, and we've seen some really good runs, primarily by Michael Kiernan there, that has been on the outside a couple of times, and certainly the Australians haven't looked as good a side as everybody thought they were.
Possession from the line out, McCoy unable to hold it. Jones just happy to play the touchline. The referee already glances at his watch. Bob Francis of New Zealand has had charge of these opening 2 internationals of the series. Again, Matthews valuable in the line-out. Bradley, Dean, Brendan Mullen trying to find a way through, but none there as Liner came in with the tackle. Mosfin, Bradley again. Tidy little kick over the head of Campese. But the man who's so used to playing full-back puts it away, and that's the final kick of the match. The referee's whistle goes, and Australia victorious, and deservedly in the end, despite the rousing performance by Ireland. Acknowledged, I think, here by the youngsters swarming onto the field, and certainly giving Ireland great hope for the future.